All right, so it looks like we've got everybody listening in and we have good audio. So why don't we go ahead and get started? I'll ask our moderator to go ahead and start the recording. So thank you again for joining us today for this webinar on strategy and management. I'm Julie Mathern. I'm with FocalPoint Coaching of Northern California. And it's my pleasure to welcome my colleague, Gary Barker, the founder and CEO of Ditto Brand Solutions, for our conversation today on the 5 strategic questions every business owner must ask themselves. I first became familiar with Ditto about 2 years ago, and I have great admiration for the way that they're changing the retail marketplace, providing ecological and environmentally sustainable solutions. But today, as we'll learn, it takes more than just a good idea to succeed in business. It takes strategy, hard work, and perseverance. And let's go to our agenda for today. So just a quick overview of what we'll be covering, some logistics, introductions to both FocalPoint and Ditto Brand Solutions. Then we'll work through the 5 strategic questions. We'll have time at the end for a Q&A, and then share some additional resources with you. So a few logistical notes. So this session is being recorded and it will be posted and shared through an email at the end for you to view later. If you have any logistical questions, as I said, use the chat window. And then if you have questions that you'd like Gary or I to answer about the content, please use the Q&A panel. So by way of introduction, FocalPoint is the Northern California affiliate of business coaching. We are the premier business coaching organization in North America. With several hundred coaches, we've worked with over 5,000 clients in the past 15 years, helping them to grow, improve their profitability and sales, formulate and execute strategy, and generally achieve higher satisfaction with their business performance. A little bit about me, your host. I'm Julie Mathern, a certified FocalPoint Business Coach, and I've got over 25 years of experience in marketing and management. I've done product and business development, strategic planning, sales and customer training, and I've also coached teams to their highest potential. My particular area of focus is working with sustainable businesses. And now to introduce you to Ditto Brand Solutions and Gary Barker. Gary is the founder and CEO of Ditto, which is an Oakland-based benefit corporation that conceives, designs, manufactures, and markets environmentally preferable, sustainably manufactured, and beautifully conceived retail display products and packaging solutions for conscientious retailers. Their products are designed for both low environmental impact, both in their manufacturing and their disposal. They're made from renewable or recycled materials and designed for safe, productive return to nature or back to industry. For the solutions and design work, Ditto was awarded the 2014, 2015, and 2016 Best B Corp for Environmental Impact, the 2013 Actera Award for Environmental Innovation, the 2013 California Stewardship Green Arrow Award for System Design and Innovation, and they've been awarded several international industrial design awards for eco-design. So welcome, Gary.
Thank you very much, Julie. Good to be with you.
Yeah. So as we talked about, it takes more than just a good idea to create a good business. What we'd love to hear from you is a little bit about what was your vision when you started the company?
Well, back in 2006, a fellow design colleague of mine, Larry Chernikoff, and I were talking about industrial design and the problem with consumption, and the fact that as an industrial designer, we would design products that would be bought, would be used, but nobody thought about the disposal of them. Nobody really cared about it. The responsibility for the product ended as soon as the product went over the UPC reader at the store. And so I realized we couldn't really affect consumption, but we could design products better. So we put our heads together and started a company in 2006 called Greenheart Global. And our mission was to reverse design products so they could flow through recycling systems at the end of their life cycle, that we took into account the disposal of products instead of just designing products just to sell. And back then we couldn't go to companies and just say, well, we're a green product design company, hire us. We had to look at a product to redesign. So we stuck our heads together, and it was my colleague Larry who said he had a great idea, and it was to redesign this, which is sure you're all used to this, the everyday clothing hanger, the dry cleaning hanger. We all have thousands of them, at least, in our closets and in the garage. So we started researching that and started realizing that there are about 350 million of those being landfilled every year. That's a tremendous amount. And they're not recyclable. They get stuck in recycling machines, and they're not recyclable in most reclamation companies. So we started looking at it and started realizing that it was this hanger that was the real problem. And our research told us that 10 billion of these are landfilled every year. That's enough to fill almost 19 Empire State Buildings from basement to observation deck full. And so we realized we had a product that really deserved to be looked at, and so we started focusing on that.
Great. Now, over time, I imagine your vision might have changed. And in fact, with business owners, you set an initial vision of where you want to take your business. Hopefully you get to a point where you've pretty much accomplished that, and then you set a new vision. Have you gone through that process?
Absolutely. We formed Greenheart Global as a service, as a design service, to have companies come to us and we would redesign the product. The thing is that once we started getting into the intricacies of hangers, we started realizing that it was a absolutely colossal sector, and that hangers had not been innovated in probably 60 years, close to 60 years. And so we realized that this was an area that we really had to focus on. So we ended up designing the Ditto hanger. And we looked at all kinds of different materials. We looked at bioplastics, we looked at wood, we looked at all kinds of different materials, but we found out that for recycling, it really has to be of a single material. Otherwise, the different materials, wire hooks, plastic bodies, or wood bodies, they all need to be separated. And they're not recyclable, because that's not going to happen on a busy conveyor belt at a recycling center. So we designed this so that it's recyclable at stores, because they have recycling for boxes there. And it took us 2.5 years of R&D to be able to find this incredibly compressed paperboard. And the more we started getting into this, the more we started realizing that there was a huge business here that needed to be innovated. So overnight, we went from a green design company to a hanger company. And we started Ditto as its own company. And we incorporated Ditto hangers and went from a trademark name, which was Ditto was in the beginning, to its own company. And since then, under that umbrella, we've designed all kinds of different products. It's not just hangers, but we find that our clients want consistency in design, so they ask us to design packaging or signage or point of purchase displays, that sort of thing. So we've expanded in that sector, but we really focus on Ditto now, and Greenheart Global is kind of on the side, and the vision is to eventually get Ditto to a point that Greenheart Global can start other companies in a kind of a network of companies that are based on green design under the Greenheart Global philosophy.
Great. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, definitely. You have to evolve as you gain greater understanding of the marketplace, or really, and how your product works in the marketplace.
Right.
Kind of leads me to the next question, and that's really, what market need did you solve? Usually people have an idea, but if there's no market for it, nobody's willing to pay you for it, it's hard to start a business. And I think from our discussions before, you kind of created your own market, is my understanding.
Yeah, we thought that once we designed a product that we'd be able to, it's like building a better mousetrap, that clients would come flocking to your front door. And so we took this basic design and this material that we found, and we ended up doing other things with it. This is a hanger that we did for Adidas Germany, which has an inch thick arms on it. It's really beautiful. We won several industrial design awards for this design. We ended up talking about hangers as a design aspect. This is one we did for Mustang Survival, where they wanted the hook to be able to go on a rod and a 3/8 inch slat wall. But really beautiful design to really complement whatever the product is or the company brand. And we went even further to, there are some concept hangers that we're putting together there in prototype phase, but how we could make interesting hangers that would ship flat and be assembled at the store, at the DC, wherever they would be used, but to use them as a marketing device. So the way we started our marketing was, because we're designers, was on the beauty of the product, that we could design beautiful hangers to bring out the beauty of the clothing, the natural materials, that sort of thing. That didn't really go so well. So we then started talking about environmentalism and started pushing that. And I would go into rooms and I would go, how can you waste this much plastic and send it to landfills? It's toxic. They off gas. It's just awful. Well, that didn't go over so well. But we talked about the marketing aspect of it finally. And we started to tell them that it was the marketing aspect of it that really makes it stand above a commodity hanger, which is what we're dealing with. And I would say one thing too is that as far as dealing with a commodity like a hanger, it's hard to get companies to focus on it. Everybody uses the same plastic hanger. It's at the end of the process of designing, producing, and selling products. It's something that companies are not anxious to get involved with. So it's taking us a tremendous amount of education, not only to our clients, but to consumers as well. So we've had to educate them that there is a problem. And nobody really knows there's a problem. So again, instead of just designing something, inventing it, and selling it, we had to show people why it's important that this area be changed, this product be changed.
Great. Well, and it sounds like, as we kind of alluded to, that you created a market maybe where there wasn't one. Nobody thought of that real estate as an opportunity for marketing and other aspects of their business and how it could be part of their whole marketing and branding, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. How long did it take you to kind of work through that process of, you had that great idea to really figuring out what the problem was that you could solve?
We'll go, it's a cycle. It's something that we'll sit down and brainstorm different ideas, what kind of reaction we're getting from clients, who do we go and talk to. So it can be several months, if not a year, on a campaign to see if we get any sort of reaction. And remember, we also had to deal with, who do we contact? We contact hanger buyers. Well, hanger buyers are these guys who have done something very bad in a previous life, and they come back as a hanger buyer who has a great day when they can buy a hanger at 1/100th of a cent cheaper than they were buying before. And so our hangers are almost twice the cost of a plastic hanger.
Wow.
So we finally realized that they were the wrong area to penetrate into. We had to go into very high level directors and VPs for the most part. And our biggest successes have been through the marketing departments of these companies. So we've really pushed that aspect of what we're doing. And we've had to be pretty nimble with our marketing plan, who we talk to, And because we are a design firm, we can really spin on a dime and come up with a presentation very quickly, depending on who our audience is. But yeah, it's been a struggle, and it's something that really takes an iron stomach to just keep going forward. But it's also something that everybody here in the company, we really believe in what we're doing. We really believe in the need for this. So we're believers.
Yeah. So we've got a question from one of our participants in, how do you educate about the problem, or how do you identify businesses who will listen?
That's a great question. Most of them, well, let me start that over. We look at the companies that have a brand connection with their customer. So these are companies that aren't low cost companies. These aren't the Rosses or the Marshalls that you go into, and it's really just lower price that you're looking at. These are lifestyle companies that advertise a lot, that the Gaps, the Adidases, the Levi Strausses. These are companies that have a connection with their customer, that want to build brand loyalty and a relationship with them, and have stated environmental philosophy. So those are the kind of companies that we go and we reach out to initially. But really, I'll tell you, our biggest companies are companies that have come to us and who have heard about us and are interested in us. And because they come at us already educated on the issue and know about our brand and our being known around the world as being the number one company for this.
Yeah. That reminds me of the fact that you are a B corporation, a benefit corporation. And I was curious, as being a member of that community, has that really helped in terms of raising awareness of the issue and your product and services?
Not really, simply because we're a green company from the start. And it took us a long time to find vendors that were certified for us. We had to find factories overseas that passed our certification inspections. We had to find the material that was non-toxic, that was completely certified. Every single step along the way, we're very conscious about, because we're a green product design company. So everything that we dealt with had to be certified. Mm-hmm. We were looking at a way to certify our company as a whole and our product. And instead of getting a green leaf symbol or something like that on the product, because it's obviously a green product, it's made out of paper, we decided that the B Corp was the best solution for us, because it, instead of the product, it really certifies our company. And that's what we wanted to do, was to show people that the Ditto brand is one of we do what we say, and that we've had some of the biggest companies in the world come to us and audit our manufacturing facilities and our products, and we pass them with flying colors, because we did that early.
Yeah.
It was a real pain to do it. It took us a lot longer to get up to speed because of it. It was more expensive because of it. But I think we've been very successful in communicating the need for this kind of certification and this kind of knowing that there are no surprises in the process.
Great, great. All right, well, let's move on to our next question then. And that is one of, who are your competitors? And I think, again, you have a kind of a unique position, but who do you consider your competitors?
Well, we invented the whole idea of a sustainable hanger. In 2006, there was no other company that was doing what we did. We innovated it. We looked at the various different materials. We looked at the collection programs at stores, and we decided to make it out of a paper. And it took us a long time, as I said, to find the right kind of paper, which is almost like masonite. It's so incredibly sturdy. It holds over 20 pounds. We've had Harley Davidson leathers, 50-pound
Wow.
leathers hanging on these. So, we can make them as thick or as thin as we need to. So we've had a lot of copycats which have come out in Asia in particular, but because of our diligence in getting the company set up, in certifying every single step along the way, in innovating this new material that holds more, which is much stronger than any other company, and also our design creds, we're able to stay a couple of steps ahead of any competitors that we have. We also have 30 patents in 38 countries. So that's helped us, and we have exercised those at times. But really our main competitor are the plastic hanger companies. And they're the companies that have been around forever. They sell their product for practically nothing. But because of this new method of shipping clothing on hangers, there's just a tremendous amount of waste which is going into landfills, unfortunately. So really, we consider them to be our biggest competitors, but we don't try to compete with them. We try to stay above them. And, we have companies that have said, if you're selling your hanger for twice as much, then this conversation's over. And I said, okay, I understand. I'll call you up in another 6 months and maybe you'll change your mind. Maybe you'll realize that plastic doesn't do everything you want it to do, and we'll talk then. So I realize that everybody's not my client.
Right. But and the point about thinking of competitors in general for business owners is that you do have to keep aware of the competitive landscape and even how business is shifting, right? Sometimes we get mired in the day-to-day of our business, but if you don't pay attention to what's happening externally, you can kind of find yourself left in the dust. So It sounds like you're keeping abreast of the copycat and what's happening in the industry. So would you say there's now a trend? Have you created a bit of a trend around that sustainable packaging? Is that something that you're finding in the space that you're in?
Yeah, I would say in the last year and a half, there's been a great uptick in interest. Companies that we talked to 6 years ago are starting to contact us again. It's getting to the point where it's something that they can't put off too much longer. And so we're finding companies that are starting to jump on board and starting to realize the importance of this product.
Yeah.
And, it's like anything else. It's I liken it to people used to smoke cigars in restaurants, and that doesn't happen anymore. And people are going to look at plastic hangers in the same way when they look back and see these things. It just doesn't make sense. So yes, we're seeing a big increase in interest in what we're doing.
Yeah, I think there's, I've just been watching the trends on sustainability, and there's so much transparency and interest around supply chain. Has there ever been any sort of life cycle analysis from like comparing conventional versus your branded hangers? Do you know if anybody's looked at that?
We do. We haven't done an official life cycle assessment, simply because our product is clearly more environmental than a plastic hanger is. We have, however, done research into how our hanger fits into logistics systems, and we can talk about that a little later on. But because more and more companies are shipping their clothing on one-use plastic hangers, we saw that as being a sector that we could insert ourselves in and make that far more efficient and more environmental.
Right. Yeah, and you're right. We'll cover that with a few slides in a little bit. So we'll talk about this, and I think you touched on it earlier, is thinking about, when you think about your product, there's sometimes a tendency for businesses to want to be all things to all people, but that's generally not the most effective use of whatever marketing resources and time that you have in terms of acquiring clients. So when you think about your ideal client, and you've alluded a little bit to that, who are your ideal clients?
It's like I said, it's companies with a connection with their consumers. We're also seeing that with the, with the uptick of online ordering, that brick and mortar stores are becoming more important, that they have to work harder, that they have to move more material. And you also have a younger demographic who is coming in and they're shopping their convictions. Mm-hmm. And we look at that as the marketing aspect of what we're doing. We're able to fit over 50% more clothes on retail racks using our hangers simply because they're thinner. Mm-hmm. And 50% more means 50% more choice and an uptick in sales. And with several large companies that we've done swap outs with, we've found that as much as a 30% increase in sales happen when our hangers are there. So that's a combination between more product to shop, to choose from, but also a more enjoyable shopping experience. There's not the sea of plastic around, and that younger buyers really like that. They like the feel of it. They feel comfortable in the stores, and you don't have to paint the walls green or put big huge posters of sunflowers on the walls. You're doing something. You're not saying anything. It's quiet. It's very subtle, but it makes a big difference because hangers haven't changed in so long. It really is a huge impact to go into a store with our hangers. So again, we're looking for companies that are having that conversation with their customers and are trying to reach out to a younger buyer and who are trying to stay innovative in their customers' minds.
Yeah, so it sounds like there's really sort of two clients for you, although one you don't really have much control over is, I mean, you're selling directly to retailers, so you're a B2B service, but you've got the end user client in mind. And how does that, has it changed your approach to sales and marketing for yourselves?
I'm sorry, you mean selling to consumers or looking at them as the ultimate target for the businesses that I sell to?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, so your client is really the retailer, right? Mm-hmm. But you probably have to take some consideration of who they're selling to, and how do you position yourself differently with your own clients when you think about their end user customer, and how does that change maybe your sales and marketing efforts?
Well, I think that it's because we focused on marketing with our products. The fact that it is a marketing tool, it says something. It's more than just an anti-gravity device. So really, when we start talking about marketing, we're talking about the consumer's reaction to a marketing campaign. And I've spent many years in marketing and advertising long ago in my youth. So I understand how that fits together with us. I'm able to put the pieces of the puzzles together. Mm-hmm. So with that, I almost exclusively talk about the consumer. Mm-hmm. Also, we've tried to educate the consumer as well. So we started a website which is called hang.net. Huh? Humans Against Non-Green Displays. HANGD.net. And what it is a coalition of anti-plastic, anti-consumer, environmental groups who are trying to get plastic hangers out of retail stores. So part of our marketing is to educate consumers to go into stores that they normally shop at and say, why are you using these hangers? You know, there's another choice out there. And so we're doing a kind of a multi-pronged marketing campaign for that.
That's great. And probably using some social media to create your activist consumer to take action.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wonderful. Great. All right. Well, let's move on to the fifth question we have for today. And this is the one I really think about. What is your sort of value proposition, if you will? How do you differentiate yourself when you think about your vision, the values of your business, who your ideal client is? The question is, how do you win, really? How do you meet and differentiate? How do you meet your market where it is, and how do you win?
I think the secret to this is is never resting and being flexible. And what I've learned over the 10 years that we've been in business is that we're always curious and we're always demanding of ourselves. And we're never going to sit still if we don't feel like we're getting the reaction that we want. And that's really starting this company was about innovation. And innovation means turning something that's hasn't changed in a long time upside down and looking at it in a different way. And we've done that with Greenheart Global with our product design, and we've done that with Ditto with the hanger issue. And we don't get wedded to a concept or a campaign. We keep moving it and we keep trying out different things. And we really try to push the envelope. We believe in our product, and we change the design. We innovate with how we can make different designs using the material. We also work in bioplastics and in recycled metal. So we use a lot of different other materials, but it's how do we talk about our product? How do we convince our buyers that it's time to change, and that buying our product, even though it ends up costing a little bit more in the beginning, over the long range of the use of the product will actually end up saving a great deal of money. And so it's being flexible. It's having a staff around you that is demanding, that's smart. Everybody shares in the decision making here. It's not a hierarchy in this company. The doors are always open, and we're very critical at all stages of what we do. So I think that the important thing is to not get stuck in one thing and just keep doing it. If we did that, we would just be selling these probably to consumers. But what we saw is that there's a far larger, more needy industry that we have to go into to solve. And that's why we ended up going into the business to business retail, is because that's the prize.
Yeah. And
we didn't think we'd be focused on that when we first started out, but that's where we are today. So yeah, it keeps you on your toes.
Yeah, and in a moment we'll go through some of the value proposition and where you are really saving those retailers' costs. But kind of along the line still about how do you win, the other question is, how do you know you've won? Is there some metric, or how do you keep track? How do you know when you're winning? What do you do internally to know where you're at?
Yeah, when we're coming up with campaigns, when we're working on new ways of talking about our product, yes, we set goals. Mm-hmm. And that's important, because otherwise it just ends up being a continuum that you don't know whether or not you're moving forward or not. So we're consistently setting up goals. We're trying to improve what we're doing. We're trying to get a wider audience. But really our goal is to eliminate the plastic hanger as we know it today. And that's our overall goal. So I think metrics is really important, and I know that you focus on that with your consulting, which I think is vastly important, because you end up getting lost in the minutia, and it's very easy to do, especially if you're a small company like we are. So getting that kind of oversight, somebody from the outside, somebody who is really keeping your feet to the fire as far as reaching your goals, very important. And we focus on that with our company too, to make sure that we're moving forward. Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things that we talk with our clients about is how do you move people to make a change? And that can be a challenge, right? And you've talked about education. So I think in the next few slides, and we'll walk through them, part of it is, I think, people, they don't necessarily have dissatisfaction with the plastic hanger, but they don't realize what the opportunity is. And I think that the slides we'll go through here show how how you can really benefit a business. So why don't we take a couple steps through some of the slides you've provided about the differences and benefits of Ditto hangers. So let me go to the next slide. You can talk us through it.
Yeah, I think that when we're talking with the previous slide about being flexible, looking for different markets for your product, expanding into the industry that's as it is. When I started doing research in the early stages of building our company, I found out that there was a program called Garments on Hangers. And Garments on Hangers is where some of the largest companies in the world, the Walmarts, the Targets, Old Navy, they end up outsourcing their plastic hangers to the clothing manufacturer. So instead of buying 10,000 plastic hangers and using them over and over in the store, they've outsourced it and rolled it into the cost of goods of the clothing, so that every single shirt that comes into the store or pair of pants has its own plastic, virgin plastic, one-use hanger on it. Because hangers are so cheap to produce overseas, and it's cheaper for the labor to put it on there than it is in the store. So what you have is this endless sea of plastic hangers coming in, and because the hangers are so cheap, it's actually cheaper to throw them out than it is to recycle them. And the volume is so huge. The Old Navy down on Market Street in San Francisco, the flagship store, they throw out up to 30,000 hangers a day. Just a tremendous volume of waste going on this. And so what we did was, I work with a company called OIA Global, which is a logistics firm, an international firm up in Portland. And I introduced the idea of, let's put our heads together and see how we can make this program, Garments on Hangers, more efficient by using our hangers. And so what we did was take all the negatives, which were, it costs more to ship a box of shirts because you have hangers in it, takes up more room. You have the waste at the store level. It costs 3 cents per hanger to throw each one away, which is a tremendous amount of money. You never see that on the selling price of the hanger.
Right.
And the marketing aspects of what it was we did. So what we did was we looked at the pluses and negatives of a Garments on Hanger program and came up with a program called Garments on Ditto. And what we did was come up with these pluses that we add to this program to not only make it more efficient, but to bring marketing and sales and display aspects that were never known before. So this shows you some of the benefits that we bring with using our hanger in a GOH program.
Okay, let's look at this next slide. Because we kind of talked about that whole life cycle, and I think this is part of that life cycle question.
So what I talked to OIA Global about is, let's look at the entire span of the logistics chain of starting with the hanger, going from the hanger company to the manufacturer in China or overseas, that the how many fewer boxes would be stored in the manufacturer, how many more garments can be fit into cartons, how many more cartons can be fit into trucks, how many more cartons could be fit into container ships, less labor taken to load and unload trucks because there are fewer boxes, less space taken up in stores because there are fewer boxes, more garments on display rods. And we took it through the entire cycle, and we ended up comparing shipping 200 long sleeve men's shirt with using our hanger versus a plastic hanger.
Great. I think we have that slide. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and what we found was that there was the savings of almost 10 cents a shirt, which is substantial, which ends up not only paying for the extra price of using a Ditto hanger, but actually makes it cost negative. And for that entire shipment of 200,000 long sleeve shirts, the shipping savings are almost $20,000. So
wow, that's tremendous.
this is what we realized, that, all right, well, we can talk to companies about the marketing aspect of it, but this is something that we can put black and white figures on. And as far as where we got these numbers from, we did a swap out at Old Navy's Fresno, DC, where we swapped out several different designs of clothing, and we found out that our savings was about 20% on average for clothing. We could fit 20% more garments in cartons than you can with a plastic hanger. So it's a pretty significant savings.
Yeah, so you can finally compete with that plastic hanger when you have this kind of data.
Yeah.
And then I think the next slide talks about there's some other benefits too, of course, the Ditto hanger.
Yeah, but beyond this, it's the more 54% more clothing on retail racks, the fact that we bring a whole marketing aspect to it that was never known before. So we tried to monetize that in some way.
Mm-hmm.
We could put QR codes on the back of hangers so that when they go home with the customer, they could scan it in a month and find out about new sales, new clothing line launches, or even fill out a survey and get a percentage off their next purchase. We've really looked at ways to make it a marketing, branding, sales tool, as well as being a logistics tool.
Yeah, great. All right, I think that might be well, here's the last slide of some of the beautiful hangers that you provide. Any other closing thoughts on your business strategy, your vision, anything we've talked about today? And then we'll move into some Q&A here in a moment with the audience.
I just think it's important to realize that when you start a business, when you have a vision, that vision will often change. And as long as you keep that original vision, change isn't that difficult. And it doesn't really change your central focus, your central theme. And environmentalism is still our core value. However, we never talk about environmentalism anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We know that our product is environmental. We know it's easily recyclable. We know it's made out of non-toxic materials. We are extremely confident in every single level of the products we produce. So we don't have to talk about that. We talk about the solid numbers, the more sales, the marketing opportunities, the logistics savings, and that doesn't lessen what we do. We don't care why people buy our products, because we know that the alternative is far worse. So that's what we continue focusing on. It's just how we talk about it, which has changed.
Yeah, you always have to speak about your product in terms of the benefit to your customer, right? So it's not necessarily about being green, because that's a pretty small market. It's all of these other cost savings and other benefits that they get. So,
and that's a great point, because when we first started, we were holding up our products saying, "Aren't these great? Don't you want one? It was fantastic." And we realized that no, that's not the way it works. You have to talk about your customers' needs and where their pain points and how you can improve their business. And so we've become more savvy as far as how we talk about our products and how we market it.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's see if our audience has any questions they'd like to ask. I did see one question that came in around, where did you get the name Ditto? Why are you called Ditto?
Thesaurus. Roger's Thesaurus. I was looking at all kinds of names, and I didn't want it to be eco something or green something. I just, and we didn't want to have suns and earths and sunflowers and things like that. So I was just looking for words about recycling and reusing, and ditto is a repetition. And to me, it's a repetition of materials that it's like, you're reusing something, something that somebody else has said, ditto. It also is Italian for to say, and that was something that I found out a little later, but I realized that our products say a lot. And so that's one of the reasons that I thought I would, that's what we ended up choosing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's great. I like that it ended up serendipitously Ditto speaking.
It is.
Hangers do speak volumes. Absolutely.
And I must say, our patent lawyers constantly calling us up, telling us that there's a new Ditto coming up somewhere else. And there's actually a London company that not only took the name, but took our logo and was making a environmental foam core board. And we had to tell them that, I'm sorry, you can't do that, you know. And it's nice because it's complimentary, but still it's something that we have to protect our brand.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. So we always have to have attorneys somewhere in our business, don't we? You have to have access to attorneys.
Right. And I'm really glad in the beginning we ended up investing quite a bit in patents, simply protect all the hard work that we did. And a lot of them are design patents that we've been exercising quite frequently. And we'll see companies that will take photos that I've taken myself of products and put it up on their website, or, you know, shown our logo, or, you know, it's a problem that we have to keep on top of all the time. And it's just a part of doing business. And if you're in a creative business too, it's important that you as a brand get recognized for the work that you're doing. And that I think that our design and our innovation is what separates us from everybody else. And the good point is that we'll always be a couple of steps ahead of anybody who tries to come behind us, because we're innovators.
Mm-hmm. Well, so what's next for Ditto?
Well, right now we're talking to a couple of the biggest clothing companies in the world, and we're in discussion with them. We've been making presentations, and one of the comments that we've been hearing more and more throughout this company is, why didn't we think of this? Which is really what you want to hear. And so we're working with OIA Global to really take over all the production, sourcing, fulfillment issues, so that we don't have to deal with that anymore. They have the ability to be able to bring that all up to scale. We're still fairly small company where we can do 1,000, 100,000, 1 million, but when you start getting up into hundreds of millions with some of the companies that we've talked to, we can't do it. We need to get a company that knows what they're doing with that kind of volume. So we've been working on that for the last year, and we're just getting it to the point where we're ready to run our first big orders through that process. And the great thing about that is that we can get back to design, to marketing, to sales, and not have to worry about the production issues or the sourcing of tons of paper, all that stuff that keeps me up at night.
Yeah, you have to have a partner. You have to have some plan for scaling. That's great. You've got a partner to help you through that.
Yeah.
A couple of questions that have come in. Are there other product categories that could be relevant for your approach, the Ditto approach, we'll call it?
Oh, anything you can think of. If my feeling is that if we could innovate a hanger the way we did, and to make it not only to blow it out of the commodity stage and make it into a functional multi-level tool, you can do that with anything. And we've looked at other product lines. We're a bit too clever for our own good, and that sometimes we go off in tangents because somebody will come to us with an interesting idea, and sometimes we'll go down that road. But really, because of the size of the market, which is probably 100 billion units a year, it's something that I think that we need to focus on that, so we can, down the road, we can push that off and focus on other products as well.
Great. One of our audience asks if you're interested in taking on an investor to scale your operations quickly.
Often, yes. I mean, I have 2 investors already with the company, one a sourcing agent in Hong Kong and the other a clothing person in Switzerland. So we do have investors with the company, but I'm always willing to sit down and talk to other investors to see if there's compatibility. And to me, that's the key thing.
Yeah, same values.
I work with are people that I like, that I get along with, they believe in the vision, and that I think that's critical for a good working relationship, and that builds the best success.
Yeah, definitely. I think a final question is wondering if you've used PR to tell your story. It seems like it's such a great story to tell, certainly in the Bay Area. I'm curious if you've done any PR through sort of the larger media channels.
We have, because we're a small firm, we haven't had the bandwidth to do a lot of extensive PR work. I've started writing articles with the communication director from OIA, Jerry Levy. We're in Inbound magazine this month on eco-fashion versus eco-logistics. So we're starting to write more, and because we have a lot of knowledge about this sector that we want to start encouraging companies to start thinking about it more.
Yeah.
So yes, it's something that we do. We just sent out our Ditto report yesterday. So we sent it out to a list of people who have contacted us, companies. So if you're interested in joining our mailing list, getting involved with that, you can write me directly. The address is gbarker@dittosbs.com. That's Sam, Bob, Sam for Sustainable Brand Solutions.
Yep, I'm already on your mailing list. I got that one.
Oh, great.
Yep. All right, well, I think that's most of the questions. There's just a couple more slides I'd like to share with our audience about additional resources. Thank you again. I love your story. As I said, I've been a big fan now for a few years, and it's really great. You know, you can have the warm, fuzzy, feel-good product idea, but without a sound business strategy and a real market need, it's not a business.
Yeah,
so really,
and it really is, and it's been an amazing journey, and I really loved it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on our show, if you want to call it that. For the audience, I'd like to share a couple more, just some resources that we have available to you through our FocalPoint website. We do a series of video blogs and written blogs on our website, and that's norcalbusinesscoaching.com. And in the past few years, we found some kind of similar trends, if you will, of topics that kind of hang together nicely. So we've created these practice areas on sales and marketing, people development, corporate compliance, professional services, IT, and this one, strategy and management. And we're creating content that is relevant to these different practice areas. And we offer complimentary 30-minute business strategy sessions for anybody that's kind of curious about how we might be able to help them to achieve more in their business. And as members of the webinar today, we're actually have an offer for people to consider, you know, what are these 5 strategic questions for themselves. So we'll have an online program with 6 sessions where we're going to cover these questions. And once you answer these hard questions, you can really create your strategic plan. And we will be looking to do that for your 2017 year. It'll be meeting weekly for 1 hour. We'll be starting in October. And I'll be sending the information to the webinar attendees in an email after the event. And we're offering a discount for all of you. So the first session would be free, and then there's a discount on the session. So basically for $245, you can hear everything or work through all of these hard questions with us and create your strategy for next year. So that is all I have. And I just wanted to thank the audience. And again, thank you, Gary, for joining me today.
My pleasure.
All right. Well, I think that's all. Thanks, everyone, for participating.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.